Hey folks, welcome back and thank you so much for joining us. My name is Adrian San Miguel. I'm a principal partner enterprise architect here at AWS, and I am joined today by a good friend of mine, Todd. Say what's going on, man.
Hey everybody, how's it going? Happy Friday, into a long week for some people. My name is Todd Fortier. I am a senior solutions architect here at AWS, where I focus on developing solutions for the AWS Solutions Library. If you don't know what that is, I encourage you to head over to aws.amazon.com/solutions to check it out. It's a cool show Friday. I'm pumped for this show, Adrian. How you feeling about it?
I'm feeling pretty good. Before we go any further, though, those of us that have an ethos or grew up in the data center IT ops, hug up to y'all out there. It's a bit of a rough one. You've got it. Take a deep breath. We're going to get through it. Same way we get through just about every other one. But that said, this isn't your average show. AWS On Air is literally a show with content asked for by you, made for you, so that you can get to learn some cool things along with us along the way. Doesn't matter if you just started in tech. Doesn't matter if you've been doing it for 20 some odd years, like the two of us, or if you're somewhere in between. Odds are you stumbled on us on the main page, if not through Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, and probably a couple other places I forgot, but we'll just blame Nick for not telling us. Welcome. We're here to serve you and hope to answer your questions along the way. So if anything comes up that's top of mind, doesn't make sense, lob it in the chat. We're actively monitoring it. I'm not a bot, definitely not five platypi in a trench coat, and we're absolutely here to make this show exactly what you want. That said, Todd, what do we got going on today?
Oh, we're going to get into a hot topic, something I've been talking about a lot. We're going to get into Amazon Q Developer and some cool new releases there. I was a developer for a very long time. Developing can be hard, and this is hopefully going to make it easier for folks. So I'm excited about this. But let's not forget some of our other shows, Adrian. AWS On Air is a suite of shows. That's cool. See, I did that suite of shows. And we've got other shows, Adrian, like Under the Hood with Art about it, where we go behind the scenes and look at how some of these services work. We have Startups with Jillian, where we talk all things startup. Really cool show there. Game Day with AM, so we can kind of gamify AWS and kind of. I've heard it described as a what are those lockout rooms or something? Like you have to try to solve puzzles to get through it. So that sounds pretty cool. Lockdown is our security show. Data Dive. We have where we dive deep into data and how to get data into the cloud. And then my personal favorite, the sports show with our dear producer, Nick. That happens every week or every other week as well. So this is just one of many shows. This is our flagship show, the one I really enjoy doing. But yeah, be sure to check out some of those other shows if you get a chance.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially much like a Savar, you love getting into some adventures. But that's enough talk for us. You ready to bring on first guest?
I think we've got some time. Yeah, no, let's bring him on. Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Welcome back to the show. Join with us now is Venu. Venu, welcome. Go ahead and introduce yourself. Let's get started here.
Again, first of all, thanks Adrian, thanks Todd for having me on the show. I'm Venu Vasudevan, based out of Denver, Colorado. I'm a specialist solutions architect with our Amazon Q and GenAI services team. Again, thank you so much.
Yeah, not a problem at all.
Thanks for coming, Venu. Yeah, it's been a fun week, I'm sure, for you too. Venu, what are we talking about today? I know we're talking about Amazon Q Developer, and just in case our audience is not aware, Amazon Q is a lot of different things. It is both applications that you can run in the AWS console, but it's also embedded in a lot of different services. But Amazon Q Developer kind of is unique. Go ahead and help us understand, what is Amazon Q Developer?
Yeah, sure. So Amazon Q Developer, to put it in very simple terms, right? It's your GenAI assistant for AWS, right? It not only focuses on the coding portion, like it always helps you in write faster and secure code, but not only in that, it also helps in accelerating other parts of your software development lifecycle, like be it learning about new resources or learning about your project, or planning or designing, or even troubleshooting issues within your console, or maintaining applications. So for example, if you have a legacy application, hey, migrating from one version of language to other, and all those things. So basically it helps you in all the phases of software development lifecycle, right? That's Amazon Q Developer for you.
Cool. Yeah. So it is tailored. I mean, so we're going to be talking about some of the new features of Amazon Q Developer.
Yeah.
We've launched Amazon Q Developer. You can use it in your IDE directly, but we've got some new enhancements to it, I understand. Give us a quick overview of what some of those things are going to be.
Yeah. So again, Amazon Q Developer is already helping a lot of customers with day-to-day coding and software development lifecycle. What if we take one step further and the customize your responses? So whatever you're asking, the recommendations based on your own company's internal libraries, APIs, frameworks, or even best practices, architectural patterns. So these general purpose foundation model brings you back great code suggestions, but it is not often referring to your own internal libraries and frameworks. What if, I mean, take a small example, right? So you have you are writing a method or a class or a project, and you want to implement logging, right? So that's a typical requirement. So you go and ask the GenAI assistant, hey, implement logging for this method or class, right? What it brings back is a generic recommendation, right? So the generic recommendation is like, hey, use this popular libraries. Like for Java, it uses log4j or something like that. But typically in organizations or enterprises, they already have a logging framework which is like vetted, tested out, and it's great. So this customization capability will bring you back those kind of reusable components from your own code base, whatever is already tested, supported, so that you don't have to reinvent the wheel whole part again and then code this, right? You can reuse the libraries which has been already written by your coworkers and use this. So that's where customization capability will be really powerful, where you want to get your own best practices frameworks from your own code base.
That's pretty fantastic. I was just talking about this with Todd and with Nick the other day that every time I need to go and start doing some Redshift queries or start mucking around with data, I always have to stop what I'm doing and go remember an obscure function or some obscure commandlet that I need to be able to manipulate the data. So if what you're saying is we can do that within the same place that we are leveraging the things that we already have been approved. We're just kind of asking ourselves a question without having to go find the one person who maybe put something 10 years ago and knows something about it. We can actually just do it in line and then continue on with the workflow. Is that about accurate?
That is absolutely accurate. And there are two parts to it. One is the inline suggestion that you talked about, as in when you start typing in code or ask a natural language question in your IDE, it brings back code suggestions or code snippets. That is generally available for everyone to use. And in preview, we also announced chat responses. Basically, you can customize your chat responses in your IDE, Amazon Q Developer Chat, to bring back suggestions from your code. Like, for example, you can ask, hey, where is this API located in my code? Or what API should I call for this purpose? Or you can ask natural language question to talk about more structure of your code, how it is structured, or where in exact places these APIs and methods are located.
Very cool. Hey, Vanu, before we get into this demo, I just want to remind everybody, this is a live show and a very special live show today because we are streaming on YouTube. We are streaming on Twitch. We are on Facebook. And I believe we are on one more. Which one did I forget, Adrian? LinkedIn?
LinkedIn. You did say
LinkedIn? Yeah,
LinkedIn.
we're on
Yeah.
LinkedIn. So we're live. If you have a question about Amazon Q Developer, are you using Amazon Q Developer? Have you played with it? What kind of prompts have you tried? Are you a developer? And where do you get stuck? We want to know those kinds of things. So pour into the comment section. Let us know where you're coming from. I know I see some people. We have some people from India. I saw some people from Angola. Somebody said they were coming from Angola. So that's cool. So welcome everybody to the show. Okay, enough of that, Vanu. I understand you have a demo. Should we bring that demo up and start talking about Amazon Q Developer?
Yeah, sure. Let's do that. Awesome. Okay, so I have this as a 3-part demo. First, I'm going to show you, hey, how you can create this customization resource itself, and then in my console, and then switch back to my IDE, like IntelliJ, and then show you how this customization can be used to get back, more prominent responses from my code base. Right.
Cool. Just before you go, I'm a big fan of IntelliJ IDE, so I'm glad that you've picked that one. Way back from when I was a ReSharper developer with C# and .NET days. So yeah, that's cool to see that. Oh yeah, let's see it. Sorry to interrupt you there.
No, all good. I mean, to be honest, I'm a fan of IntelliJ too. So
I kind of want to hear from our audience. Like, what IDE do you prefer? I know VS Code's a huge one. IntelliJ. I'm sure there are other ones that I don't know about now that I'm not actively coding. But let us know, what do you use? All right, Vinu. Kick us off here. So we're looking at the AWS console, all right?
Yeah, sure. So this is the Amazon Q developer console, right? I go to customization. Customization is the feature that we are going to talk about. And then I can create a customization here, right? So couple of things to note here, right? One, how do you create the customization? So before you do that in your console, what is the code that you need to be there for customization, right? There are a few requirements. One, from a size standpoint, it could be anywhere between 2 megabytes to 20 gigabytes. So that would be your code size, and it could be hosted in your own repositories, be it GitHub or GitLab or Bitbucket. That's one way of connecting to your private code repositories. Or you can put the code in S3 bucket, and we can use that for customization as well. So both options are available. And from a quality of the code itself, make sure the quality of code is great. You don't have any anti-patterns or performance issues or security vulnerabilities in your code. So however, you define those terms, what is the best code that you can select for this customization that your other developer teams can use or replicate, right? So with that,
So I imagine, Vinu, there's some security implications in that too. You want to make sure that you are exposing the code that you want to expose, because this could then be used by other developers in your organization. So if there's sensitive information there, you want to be aware of that as well.
Absolutely, yes. Yeah. Make sure it doesn't have any security vulnerabilities. We'll talk about this more, but Amazon Q Developer also has a way to run the project scans to get you all the security vulnerabilities. So you can use that as well to fix those code issues before uploading for a customization. So that's a separate topic, but I just wanted to mention that.
It's nice to know we got that fail safe there, because who among us has not ever accidentally maybe uploaded some keys or done something similar? It's pretty cool that we got in there. But yeah, please continue.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, let's go and create a customization. I'm going to name this, let's say, chat demo customization. And then again, as I said, you could connect to your GitHub, Bitbucket, or GitLab, or to your S3 bucket. And then you can, I'm going to select S3 bucket and then browse S3. Okay, so I'm going to, I already have a bucket called a customization demo. This is basically, this project itself has a backend front-end component. It is a front-end project with React and JavaScript and TypeScript. And the backend is basically a bunch of Lambda functions with Node.js. And it also uses, AppSync, AWS AppSync as a GraphQL API layer, and DynamoDB as a database, just to give a perspective of what project that I'm working on, right? So again, I've uploaded this code, and I'm going to use this as my source for customization. So going back, so once I select this, so let's see, copy paste my properties. I'm going back here. Let's see. Okay, so once I select my S3 URI, and then I can start creating the customization. This is going to take time, like based on how much code base that you have, it will take few hours. So so this is the process of creating the customization itself. And from an access standpoint, I just wanted to mention, you can give your user specific access to this customization. So for example, you have created multiple customization and you want only one team accessing customization A, another team accessing customization B. You could do that with users and groups with the IAM Identity Center. So that's also possible with a fine-grained access control.
Oh, okay. So this is the same IAM Identity Center that you are subscribing users to. You can now segment them further with this customization to limit. Okay.
That is correct. Yes. I mean, when you create these users and groups in IAM Identity Center, and you give access to Amazon Q Developer Pro, they will have access to the foundation model. But here in this case, since I've created a customization resource for this code base, I can specifically select groups and users from that and give specific access. Yep.
Cool. Okay.
Okay. So let this. Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
Real quickly right now. So what's happening right now is you gave it a S3 bucket. It's indexing the code that's in that bucket. So I know we're going to get into some Gen AI concepts here, but it's got to go and actually crawl that S3 bucket, look for the code, and then put that into an index and embed those so that we can retrieve them later from our IDE.
Absolutely, yes. So what is going on behind the scenes is I just wanted to make sure the audience understand here, right? So what we do is we use retrieval augmented generation, which is a RAG for this customization capability. So once you give us the code base, we create a RAG or like a vector database out of it, right? And it is secure, it's private to your organization only, and we make sure that we don't use the data at all for any other customers or even training our foundation model. So it's completely secure only for your own company. And also you have an option to encrypt this customization resource with your own private key, like encryption key. So only you as a company can access this customization resource, and we do not use that for any training purposes. So just wanted to be really clear on that.
Hey, Vinu, sorry to keep interrupt here, but we got our questions are coming in now from
Oh
our
yeah.
audience. I want to make sure I ask this before I forget it. So we've got a
Yeah.
question in the chat regarding with all the advancements in generative AI, will coders no longer be needed? Do you see I know this is kind of an existential question, maybe not necessarily directly related, but kind of like, are we going to need coders in the future?
Absolutely, yes. That's something, a lot of times, customers ask these questions, right? So absolutely, yes, but they will be doing like very high profile and creative job instead of doing this, monotonous job of like writing unit test or, doing things which could be done by generative AI, right? So they will be focusing more on the creative part and building this application, planning these applications, designing these applications instead of just coding this unit test and, very tasks that could be done by these assistants.
Yeah, Vanu, that's a great way to put it. The way that I like to think about it, like if you look at the early days of coding, we have these different levels of abstraction. We were using punch cards. One's is we were really low level, but binary. And then we've abstracted a little bit, made it a little bit more readable, and there was this interpretation going on. And then we went even higher and made it even abstracted and made it even more readable with more layers of interpretation. Now we're getting to this level of generative AI where with natural language processing, we can speak directly to this, and it can interpret that down into what the computer needs to be able to build it. Now, still requires a human to bring that creativity in there to say this component and this component, and this is what I want to do. So it may change the way that developers code, but it's certainly they're going to be needed. We need people thinking like that to build these and architect these systems. Adrian, what were you going to say?
I took the words out of my mouth. I was going to say this kind of reminds me of, I guess middle aughts roundabout, where many folks, including leadership at an organization I was at, they were dead set against automation. They wanted somebody to sit at a keyboard, clack things out, no bulk provisioning, no scripting, no cluster SSH or telnet or anything. It was almost deliberate to ensure that the individual still had something in line. But as soon as we started using orchestration tools like Puppet, Hiera, Ansible, Chef, we were able to leave that to the machines, the simple, repeatable things to allow us to focus on the tougher problems. So we didn't have to do that, much like how we do here at AWS, where we try to abstract out the undifferentiated heavy lifting. This is doing exactly that. We want you as the user and consumer of the service product to go do the things that are material to your business and focus on doing that the best you can. And just leave all the other semi-grimy kind of boring stuff to us. We'll just take care of that for you as a service.
Yeah. For sure. And we could probably have a whole nother episode and show just on these existential questions of generative AI. But let's get back to this demo, Vanu. We're creating this customization. It's indexing. Where do we go next?
So again, for the time being, I've already created another customization that I could use because this is going to take a couple of hours. So let me switch to my IDE, again, IntelliJ here, right? Yep. So first, let me show you the inline recommendation, how it is different from a foundation model to the customized resource, right? So again, I've connected through my IDE. I've installed my plugins here. So basically, all you need to do is install an Amazon Q plugin in your IDE and connect to with Amazon IAM Identity Center, and then get started, right? So here I have a simple Lambda function, like with AWS client imported and some environment variables, right? And I'm going to show you here. Since I have access to customization, I click Amazon Q and select customization. Here I can switch back between my foundation model, which is the default model everybody gets, and the customized resource that I created, right? Chat demo customization. So first, I'm going to show how the responses are from my foundation model. So let's click foundation model, select, and it says that, hey, the recommendations are coming from the foundation model now. Okay. Again, here I'm going to ask Q to create a function to call a GraphQL endpoint. Since my project uses GraphQL AppSync as a API layer, I'm going to ask it to create it. Okay. 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 So this is my first recommendation. As you can see here, this is a very generic recommendation. It basically uses JSON stringify to get the query and variables and AWS fetch call, and then return the data. Very generic, right?
Sure.
And let's go one step further. I'll show one more example with the foundation model. As I start typing in, hey, I've created a function to call a GraphQL endpoint. Now let's call a API to get some data, right? Um, so I'm asking it to do a get profile. So basically a profile information. Okay, so as you can see, again, these are very generic fields that are being recommended. Again, ID, name, email, very generic from the foundation model. Again, I was able to create a function for calling a GraphQL endpoint and the API through that endpoint, right? Again, these recommendations are from the foundation model. These are great for a start when you start the project. Hey, this could recommend great code. You can start using it. But I've already used these patterns in my code, right? So I have a own pattern of calling a GraphQL endpoint, and I have my own APIs to get profile information. How does my responses when I connect to my customization resource differ? So let's see that, right? Let's delete this recommendation. I'm going to switch it to customization. So I'm going to clicking Amazon Q from the toolbar and select customization. And I'm going to switch to my customization resource, which is the chat demo customization. I'm going to select it. Now it's coming from chat demo customization. Okay, awesome. Again, it's the same context that I'm giving, same prompt. So let's see the. Okay, so as you can see here, the response is completely different. So first of all, it says, hey, if the GraphQL endpoint is undefined, throw an error. And also the response status, I have a specific way of throwing error responses and handling the response status. Hey, response status is 200, do this. If not, you're finding errors, do this, etc. So I have modified my way of calling GraphQL endpoint in my code, and that's what is getting replicated here. That's so basically it's following the algorithmic techniques that I've already used in my code. So this is especially useful. You have a reusable code component that you want to refer. It's very useful. Let's continue this, right? Let's ask async, same thing, async function get profile. Okay, so as you see here, as I start typing in, it is auto completing my API, right? So which means that I already have an API in my code base that it is referring to. So it's already getting the knowledge of my code base. So what API I need to use, right? So let's accept this. So I'm getting the field called alias, which is again coming from my database, which is DynamoDB table. Again, very specific to my application, my own APIs and frameworks. Hope you're able to understand the difference between the foundation model response and the customized model, which is very specific to my own code base.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. Go ahead, Adrian.
I was gonna say it's night and day. It's like comparing the the savannah to an oasis, or even just outright the desert. It's just completely different.
Yeah, I'm going to date myself a little bit here. When I started developing way back, whenever that was, there were senior developers who kind of set the standard. They said, this is how we're going to program here at this company. And as a junior developer, as a new developer, I came in and I'd have to refer to like documentation, like in a Confluence wiki somewhere. Like I was like, okay, that's how I do a function. That's how I do this. And that's how they want me to call this API. And then there became all these linting patterns where you could just impose restrictions with lint. This to me just blows open a whole new way to kind of conform to standards, especially those that are already set throughout your organization, and huge implications, right? Because now junior developers are working faster. They don't have to guess, and reducing the impact of errors or non-conforming patterns. And just cleaner code all around, right? If somebody new to the company comes in, they're going to see consistency across your code. So I get it. You get the FM generic. That's helpful. Helps you move faster. I don't have to type a bunch. But now customization, it's the way that we do it. This is how we call our API. I think that's cool. Really cool.
This is like legitimately laying down the standard of standards as it directly applies to you. No second guessing, not having to go search, no having to go clack together, hey, what's this? The Stack Overflow recommendation for going about calling MySQL through whatever specific API. There's no guessing, it's there.
Hey, Venu, we just got just a few minutes left. I want to make sure that you're getting to everything you want to get to in this demo.
Yeah.
What do we got?
Let's switch to the chat, which is currently in preview, right? So let's start with the first thing. Okay. Let's start with the empty file, right? I have event list.jsx, which is basically I'm starting scratch. I want to develop a component or develop a page, want to list all the events, right? That's my requirement as a developer. The first thing I'm going to ask my customized resource, hey, to display a list of something, do I already have a reusable component in my code library that I can use, or should I create it new, right? So first thing, this is where chat comes in really handy, where I can ask questions on my code base, basically on the structure, etc. So let me. Okay, so this is the prompt I was intending to do. So which UI component can be used for displaying tabular data um, based on filters on my code base? So basically I'm asking a question on my code base, hey, do I already have a reusable component for displaying a table, right? Let's see how Q responds, or my customization resource response. Again, this is very helpful in finding out these APIs from your code, number one, and also it does also refer to the files that is already using these patterns, so that you can go and refer to it.
Well, a huge impact too to documentation. I remember, as a developer, I hated writing documentation. It was the last thing I ever wanted to do. Nobody else wanted to do it, but we tried because we understood the value of it. So we were jumping between wikis and doing all stuff. Now I can just ask a question and do research before I even put my hands on the keyboard. Or put code to the paper. So this is pretty cool.
Absolutely. So as you can see from the response, right, first it displays, hey, relevant code snippets from your code base. Hey, there is a list organization JSX, which is already out there, and it is using something called property filter table that you can use for displaying the events in a list. So it's a reusable component that you can use. And it also gives you, okay, so from a Stack Overflow answer, this could be another possible way. So basically it refers to both answers. So if there is a thing from your code base that could be used, or a Stack Overflow answer, so you can choose between two. Okay.
That is pretty fantastic video, and it looks like we're just about out of time. So as a bit of a leave behind or some homework for the audience that this may be tickling the fancy, what would you recommend that they do to go ahead and get started on this?
Excellent. So two things. One, you can you have to install the Amazon Core or Amazon Q plugin inside your IDE. That's number one. Number two is you should authenticate with your IAM Identity Center if you want a professional version. And those are the two requirements that you can get started.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us on the show today, Venu. Always a pleasure to talk shop with a fellow development nerd. And like always, if anyone in the audience has questions, feel free to reach out to Todd or myself or Venu, and we will work to get those answered for you. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thanks, Venu.
Thanks a lot. Take care. Bye.
Bye.
And I'm always blown away by some of this stuff. Like having been in the trenches as a developer, struggling. Stack Overflow is how I learned how to develop. I didn't go to school for any of that. I just was like, I had questions and went to the internet and Googled and Stack Overflow and eventually learned. And now I can do that. Well, of course, now I'm not developing as much anymore, but I can just, ask a pretty generic question and get a ton of recommendations. That's awesome.
It's pretty awesome. I was actually looking back at some of my old code, and it was pretty terrible as far as documentation goes. And I think after we're done here today, I'm gonna go run through this and see what I can get clacked out, and finally, put some stuff up through AppSec.
I want to be a developer again now that I'm not doing it. I want to know what the audience thought of that. I am having all kinds of crazy thoughts right now about how cool that is. But if anybody else was as impressed as I was, please let me know in the chat. I want to hear what folks think. Okay, Adrian, chugging along with our Friday show here. What do we got next?
Well, first and foremost, I want to remind the group to please take our survey. We will not take feedback lightly and absolutely take everything into account. Even if your feedback is nothing more than, I don't like the way your face looks and I don't like the lighting that Nick uses. I mean it sincerely. This is a show for you. And if we're hitting the mark, we would love to hear it. Also, just as importantly, if we're not, kind of need to hear that too. That way we can mix things up and get you exactly what it is you're looking for. But that said, I believe we've got a bit of a quick segment with our sponsor, Nvidia. Is that about right, Todd?
I think that sounds about right to me. Thanks to Nvidia for sponsoring this episode. Let's bring them in and see what they got for us.
Sounds good.
Cool.
Hey everyone, this is AWS On Air, a weekly show that we do every single Friday, and we've got a really exciting segment for you here. If you do vehicle routing and it's maybe very manual and you're looking ways to be able to improve the speed and accuracy, well, we've got a really exciting topic on that with the folks from NVIDIA. Moon and Adi are here to be able to share some really cool things that NVIDIA is doing on this very problem. So let's start with merely talking about what vehicle routing is. So, Moon, how would you describe to someone who's new to this use case of what vehicle routing is?
Of course. So vehicle routing, anything that the vehicle is navigating through the traffic, accident, weather changes, that can be vehicle routing. So, for example, one good example is I order pizza from whatever local pizza house, and nobody wants to have a cold pizza when it's delivered, right? So we will help that local pizza house to have the best routing by saying, hey, pick up the cheese pizza and the pepperoni pizza for Adi, and drop by Moon's place, and then deliver one pizza at her house, and then on the way, next stop is going to be Adi's house, and then you drop something else. So without having to make it back and forth to the pizza house. So that's the easiest way I can describe what vehicle routing is.
Well, I love that use case. I mean, it's something that everyone can really relate to every single day. But it sounds what's really cool is that there's a lot of other use cases aside from if you're ordering food. So Adi, maybe you can unpack some of the other use cases for vehicle routing that are out there.
Sure. So there are different use cases for vehicle routing problems. The main one that Moon just talked about is last mile delivery, which includes delivering orders from a certain warehouse or distribution center to different locations. Another use case is pickup and delivery. So a food delivery driver, somewhat similarly to the pizza, maybe like going to one restaurant to pick up an order, then going to a customer's location to drop it off. So then each driver's route would be like half of them would be pickup locations, like the different restaurants, and then the second half would be drop-off locations. And Another popular use case is dispatch optimization. So this could be some service providers who have to go to customers' homes to install something or deliver some maintenance service.
Wow, these are really, just fundamental use cases, I would say, to things that we do in our everyday lives, or at least experience in our everyday lives. And I can imagine that it must be fine if you're just doing it on spreadsheets if you just have one customer. But once you have hundreds, thousands, that's where you need something that's really automated and scalable. So let's kind of talk about how Coop can be able to help with that. So Moon, when you're talking to people, how would you describe what Coop is from NVIDIA?
Sure. So NVIDIA Coop is a world record GPU accelerated optimization AI microservice. So it's a long description. So let me break it down and then kind of walk you through what each means. So Coop uses GPU accelerated logistics solvers relying on heuristics, meta heuristics, and optimizations to calculate complex vehicle routing problems with a wide range of constraints. So when I say constraints, it could be distance, it could be climate change, like traffic and all that. Also something like the lunch break for the driver and so on. So a lot of them can be constraints. With
the support for the distance and time metrics with asymmetric patterns, Coop can be seamlessly integrated with popular map engines and deployed in any data center or cloud.
Wow. So now that your people are able to deliver this, be able to use this in AWS, make it a lot faster, scalable. I think that's really exciting. I'm sure a lot of people are wondering when you said earlier, world record breaking. I'm even curious too, like what that even means. Maybe you can break that down for us, Moon.
So from historical and engineering perspective, in 2021, we released the first version of Nvidia Coop. So it was a GPU accelerated operations optimization engine with a focus on the speed to solution. So that really unlocked the new use cases for operations optimization, and for the first time gave the users the ability to leverage the dynamic nature of real world data and the power of exploration through simulation. In March earlier this year at GTC, we went a step further. So NVIDIA's Coop holds all of the world records, like 23 of them, were achieved in the last 3 years and the largest instances of the Gehring and Homburger and Lee and Lim benchmarks. What's really cool about this improvement is that rather than improving the previous routes, Coop really explored the new regions of the search space to find the feasible routes that were previously unknown. So the solver combined the GPU parallel computing with the new techniques inspired by the natural systems to quickly identify the most promising solutions in the search space. So, for the first time, decision-making is available with the world's best accuracy in record time.
That is fantastic. I'm sure a lot of people would want to be able to see this. So maybe, Adi, could you walk us through what a demo is of once the folks use NVIDIA AI Enterprise, that is a prerequisite, which you can use on the AWS Marketplace. So once they sign up for that, then they can start using Coop and they can go through the steps that you're about to show us.
Sure. Yeah. So I'll show you two things. The first one is a very easy way to access Coop, which is on the Nvidia API catalog. So you can access that Coop demo in your browser. You don't even need Nvidia AI Enterprise licensing. You just need your laptop and some connection to the internet.
How exciting.
And then after that, we'll look at how to deploy Coop on AWS. So I'll share my screen. And here I'm just going to share a YouTube video doing a live demo felt.
But it's not just any YouTube video. You're talking over it. You're giving us the in-person commentary.
Oh, yeah. So, all right, let's get started. The first demo, like I said, is on NVIDIA API catalog. So you can access this by going to build.nvidia.com and just searching for Coop in the search bar. So in this demo, we have 3 use cases. Like I said, we have last mile delivery, pickup and delivery, and dispatch optimization. Right now, I'll just talk about last mile delivery. So let's, again, talk about the example of pizza delivery. So the input data would consist of 3 data sets. We have orders, vehicle, and depot data sets, as well as the cost matrix. We'll touch upon that in a second. But the orders would basically be the pizza orders, right? So one of the orders would be my order. Another order could be Moon's, and so on. So in this data set, we have the locations of the orders, as well as, I'll go back, as well as the demand. This could be like order weight or order volume. Order start and end time, that indicates when it's appropriate to deliver that order. Because if I'm ordering pizza at 5 p.m., I don't want to get my pizza at midnight. Like, that's too late. So that way we can show some delivery window of when the driver can deliver my pizza. Then we have the depot data set. This also includes the location and operating hours. This would just be the pizza restaurants, like where all of the orders and vehicles depart from at the end of the day and return to depart from in the beginning of the day and return to at the end.
I've got one quick question here just for the folks who are joining us, because these data sets that I hear in this example, they're all very nice, perfectly clean, and we all know that real data in the wild usually is pretty messy. So before the folks joining us are actually start using NVIDIA Coop, should they do their own prep work of cleaning up the data and then inputting it into NVIDIA Coop?
Yeah, that's a good question. So this is the raw input data. This is something the user would have to provide on their own. This is whatever data you collect for your industry and your use case. So you would have these sample data, you would have these data sets, then you would have to do some data pre-processing. We show the data pre-processing to the left underneath task data and fleet data. If you can see these two JSON files, this is the data after it's been pre-processed. So we take our raw data, we do some data pre-processing, we save it to a JSON file. And then basically when we use Coop, we make an API call where we send this data to Coop, and then in return Coop, the Coop output includes the optimized routes. So let me fast forward here a bit. We have the orders, we have the vehicles. So in this example, we have different vehicle types as well as different carrying capacities. So then let me just fast forward. We call in Coop. It's pretty easy. It's just an API call where we send the data over to Coop. We can also play around with the solver time limit, like how long we want to let Coop run for. And then we can look at the output. So we can see here that Coop found a solution using 9 vehicles. So in the raw input data, we have 10 vehicles. So by default, Coop minimizes the number of vehicles used in the solution. So we can see that not all vehicles are necessary to deliver all of these orders. So because of that, Coop isn't going to use all of them. And then we can also look at the routes per vehicle. So for example, vehicle 7 goes from its depot to order 62, then to order 74, and so on until it returns to its depot. And then something else we've included in this demo is a mapping visualization. So here you can print the routes on a map. So this is the route for vehicle 1, then we can look at the route for vehicle 2 on a map. So next, let's take a look at how to use Coop on AWS. So for this, you need to have an Nvidia AI Enterprise subscription. Information for that will be linked below. However, you can get a free trial for Nvidia AI Enterprise. You can get a free trial for 90 days. So once you get your Nvidia AI Enterprise license, you can go to AWS, go to Marketplace, and then look for Nvidia AI Enterprise. For me, I already have my Nvidia AI Enterprise subscription, so it just pops up here. So I'll click on that, and then I'll go to launch new instance with this Nvidia AI Enterprise licensing. Here I just go through hardware and system configuration, and then I launch my instance. So now after my instance has been successfully launched, I can connect to it.
I just want to call out from what you just quickly showed, you intentionally selected the P5 instance. So it sounds like you'd recommend for those who are using Coop in AWS that they would use the P5.
Yeah.
Or the P4D I saw as well,
Coop
right?
is more optimized for some GPUs over others.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to make sure you use the correct hardware for Coop.
Got it. All right.
Yeah. So in here, I open my terminal. I connect it to my VM. And the first thing that I do is that I log in to the to nvcr.io. That's the NVIDIA container registry. So I log in, then I save the Coop container tag as an environment variable. So Coop image is just the nvcr.io/nvidia/Coop, and then the version of Coop that I want to run. And then I simply pull the container So this usually takes a couple of minutes, so we just fast forward in this video. And then, ooh, that was quick. Let me go back. Okay, and then I just run the container. So I just do docker run and then the container that I pulled using the co-opt image variable. So here co-opt is already running based on this output. Looks good to me. So then I open another terminal window. I connect to the same VM, and now I can make a sample API call. So here I have my curl command. So I connect to the local co-opt service that I have set up. I have some sample data. I send it all over to co-opt. And if you can see the last two lines in this terminal, we have the solver response, which basically includes the optimized routes that co-opt has returned. And like I said, you can go to the Nvidia API catalog. You can do it right now if you want, and look at the demo yourself.
I think that's really exciting. It showed just really how simple it was to be able to get started, way better than doing things manually. So where is it that people can go if they want to get started with co-opt, and any events that are coming up where they can meet some of the folks at NVIDIA?
So there's going to be a conference called Informs in October 21st. Yeah, in Seattle. So there's going to be usually, last year there were, 6,000 people, 800 sessions, and the presentation from over 100 organizations. And we will have several of our engineers from NVIDIA who will have an in-person session there to talk more about the, new feature that we are going to launch at the end of the year. So stay tuned.
I don't know about you, Adrian, but I have a sudden urge for pizza.
I always have an urge for pizza, and despite what anybody says, yes, pineapple does belong on it.
There's an active debate going on right now about pineapple.
There is always a good, healthy debate about pineapple on pizza. I almost don't even like it at this point. It's just to do it out of principle.
I've tried to convince my wife on a number of occasions that most forms of food are just pizza, but in different form factors. Bread, cheese, meat. Just how do you want to hold it and eat it?
You're right. You could probably make the argument for tacos to be considered pizza, but I digress. What are we doing here today, man?
Okay, that's all right. Let's get back to it. We are AWS On Air, a weekly show where we talk about the latest innovations here at AWS and in cloud computing. And I am one of your hosts, Todd Fortier. I'm a senior solutions architect here at AWS, and I'm joined with Adrian, who's also hosting with me. Thanks, Adrian. But yeah, we're live. We're live on multiple platforms today. We're on Twitch, we're on Facebook, we're on LinkedIn, we're on YouTube. So if you have a question or you want to know something about cloud computing, drop it in the chat. We are focusing today specifically on Amazon Q, and within Amazon Q Developer, and we've got another live demo coming up. So, Adrian, should we bring on our next guest?
We should, because otherwise you're just lying. Let's get to it.
Hello, welcome back, Kyle. Welcome to the show. I'll have you introduce yourself, but I've got to ask you this question. It's the most important question of this demo. Does pineapple belong on pizza?
We should ask Q. Yeah, I agree. Why not? I think it does. I think it's a good way to be annoying as like a teenager and always be the one who throws the pineapple on, so then you get a whole pizza for yourself.
See, strategy. I like the way your head's at. Yeah. Hey, Kyle, welcome to the show. Introduce yourself, man. Welcome.
Hey, thanks. No, thanks for having me. I am Kyle. I'm a product manager at AWS. I'm working on Cube. Been working on this for a little while. Obviously, Cube's pretty large. I'm specifically focused on how Cube can help our customers who are using the console day to day complete their tasks. I'm based out of Boston, but work with teams all over the world.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things about Amazon Q that tripped me up initially when I started learning about it. It is not just one thing. It is a suite of things. There are a lot of different aspects to Amazon Q. And you just said Amazon Q in the console. So there's a whole console experience with Amazon Q developer.
Yeah.
Cool.
Well, I think it's even a click higher than that is we have Amazon Q, and within that we have business and we have developer. And so business is awesome if you're looking to build, your own sort of chatbot experiences, use your own internal wiki data and make it Gen AI experience. Business will handle that for you. And then we have the developer side where I think you just saw a demo with Vanu and some other areas in the IDE. How can we help developers just be more productive working on their code? But then there's a couple other areas, like we do work with QuickSight. So if you're doing data analysis and you want to like AI to help you, understand the trends and the patterns you're seeing, Q Developer will help you in the QuickSight world. And then the other area that you brought up is specifically the console chatting, getting Q&A, getting answers, and we can talk more about that stuff. But like, how can Q as an expert help you navigate AWS? We also do things like troubleshooting with Diagnose with Q and things like that. So we are around through the console and where our developers and customers spend their days is the goal.
I'd say that sounds pretty all-encompassing. So come to understand, we're going to be talking about something that could be relatively new, something interesting. Is that about right?
Yeah, that's right. So we super excited with the team and I. We just launched a new feature since I've been focused on for a while, which is we launched with Q&A back at reInvent, the ability to just like, what is serverless? What EC2 instance should I use? Like things that are like really helpful, especially for customers getting started with the cloud journey and things like that. But what we wanted to go is a step further, which is similar to customizations, which was how can Q answer questions about your resources and your account and things like that. And so we launched a new ability to basically do that, ask about your functions, your instances, and can definitely we can jump right in and give you a demo of some of the other kind of new stuff coming out with that. If you have any questions, let me know.
Let's bring up the demo. Yeah. So as you're bringing up the demo here, I understand that there are different models kind of driving the scenes. And so when we talk about developing or coding, we want models that are trained on code. When we're talking about business, we want a model that's trained up maybe better at natural language or producing natural language process. We can point it at your enterprise data. But when we're talking about this context here in the console, we're talking about AWS. This model knows AWS, but you're taking it. I think what you're saying is you're taking it a step further.
Yeah, that's a really good point. There's a lot of models in flight and things are always evolving, but what we've really focused on is building up a knowledge base of AWS. Everything from like being up to date with our documentation, our what's new, everything going on in AWS, our SDKs and CLIs, so we can answer questions about that, right? Like you can say, how do I list my S3 buckets? And what this is going to do is it's chatting with Q, it's looking up our knowledge base. And this isn't new. We were always able to do this. But what it's able to do is like look across, and it's going to come back with basically a list of CLI commands and an explanation of how you do that.
Wait, Kyle, before you go further, how did you get to this point? I mean, for folks that might not be familiar with console or the experience, how did you get here?
Yeah, so I'm in the AWS console now. So AWS, just log into your console. Over on the right, you'll see a new, for some of you new, a Q icon here. So you click that, opens up, and it'll give you your chat. And this is available. What's really nice about this, and you'll see in some of the demos, it persists across all console pages. So as you start chatting, asking for questions like how to connect an EC2 instance to VPC, which I was doing earlier today, you can actually start in one spot and it'll follow you around as you go.
That's pretty cool. That's so like where you would normally see your help information when you click on those little question marks. We also have, this is your kind of next level Gen AI helper.
That's right.
Right next to cool.
Yeah. And so, go. Sorry.
Oh, no, I was just going to say that, Todd dated himself earlier. I'll take the shot at dating myself. When I was just a wee architect, or, as my wife likes to refer to me, back when I was a young warthog, I had to do a lot of this manual collation and keep tabs and keep that persistent tab going and hop back and forth and, move the arrow a little bit to make sure that it would actually stay there and not refresh and I lose my spot. But to be able to have this intelligently persist across different sessions, that's pretty awesome, man.
That's the whole reason I bought a second monitor when I was.
I know you're right.
Here just for that purpose.
Okay, so you said lists. Go ahead, Kyle.
I was gonna say one of my product goals, and I write this in all of the docs everywhere I talk about Q, is like stop having to open so many tabs. That's like my ultimate goal as a product manager, is reduce tabs needed to complete tasks.
Death by tab.
So we have this here. How do I list my S3 buckets? And of course, this comes back, and we talk you through how you can do it and all this stuff. But we want to go a step further and list my S3 buckets. And so we rolled this out, and this just went generally available. Is the ability for Q to answer sort of introspection questions about your account, like just give me my S3 buckets, list my Lambda functions, list my EC2 instances, things like that. And so what we do is, you can see it comes back, kind of summarizes what we've gone. We show up to 6. We realized no one wants to look at thousands of elements in the chat, but you can get quick links out to these resources. You can copy the yarn if you're doing some workflows, and then we give you a link out to the console too. So just like just make it a little bit easier to get around the console, basically.
Yeah, that's cool. So you asked it kind of a generic list buckets, and you limited it to 6. Can you make it contextual? Can you say buckets in this region?
Yeah, so you can, and let me do it with like let's list my instances, and you'll see I'm in US West Oregon right now, but let's say US West or US East 1. Everything seems to be there. So you can ask this. Q knows how to you can ask, you can put in a lot of things. Q is really good at figuring out the intent there. It even knows that instances probably means EC2, and based on what we've seen, I don't have any in there. But now if I said list my instances in Oregon, it'll use my current region by default, but this will, just for completeness, it should come back with a couple instances here that I could show you on.
That's cool. So you don't even have to know the region name. You can just say where. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So exactly. So here, and then the answer is personalized for you. So it's like you asked about the region, so it's actually going to tell you US West 2 Oregon region. They're located here, and again, you can see the irons, you can deep link into them. So it's just like a faster way. You can do things like list my instances that are running, and it'll use my current region, but you could be asking this across any global region, right? So you can find out if there's anything in Dublin that you need to check on.
Okay.
You can go further than this. These are pretty simple examples.
This legitimately replaces a bunch of utilities and scripts that I wrote when I first started at Amazon. What I had, because nobody wanted to get that nasty grant and say, hey, you got too much GPU or way too much storage or whatever it is running in a particular region, and forget about it.
That is spot on. So one of the other goals I have is help reduce writing scripts. That's just, I hear it all the time. I just write scripts all the time to figure out stuff so that I can go then do my job. And so one of the cool features we just rolled out is, so this is one area, right? Sure, this is helpful. You can find quickly to understand basic stuff about your account. We rolled out, now you can ask questions like, what resources are related to, I just copied this instant ID. So let's drop this in, and should work. What this is doing is we actually go a step beyond just describe EC2, and we can now look at related resources like IAM policies, maybe VPCs, alarms, because what you're getting at, Adrian, is the next step is you're never looking up a resource just to look it up. It's often to complete a task. Maybe it's to figure out what else is there. Let me try that again. And so what this is basically pulling up is we look at it across common relationships with EC2, which is CloudWatch, ELB, things like that. It's being annoying. So the other thing you're going to find out, and this is why we have our thumbs up, thumbs down, is please keep us posted as you're using it if you've got feedback and thoughts.
Yeah, we know that generative AI is a learning process, right? It's going to get better with the more data that it's learning. It's getting better and better. I'm kind of curious. Just to remind folks, we are live. This is live Friday Eastern. So demos, it happens in the live demo. But because we're live, I also want to know what the audience wants to know. What kind of questions would you ask in your AWS account that you would make your life easier? Are you writing a bunch of scripts? Drop it in the chat. Maybe we can see if we can get Kyle to help us out.
Absolutely. Please do. And this is an interesting thing. As everyone here is playing more with Gen AI and working with it, a few different folks are building how to write good prompts. You can go to Claude, and they've got great research on this. In this case, I wrote a prompt, right, which was what are related to this. It sort of figured out it was EC2, but once I put in the keyword instance, it actually went through and got there. And it's been this really interesting learning process for myself personally and for our customers of like, how do you optimize, how you're using this? So when this does work, when the request comes back with related resources, you can see it gives you a summary. You can see that there's a few network interfaces, IM, and then we give you the deep link in to go view it. So yeah, obviously very curious to hear if folks are messing around with Q, what they'd like to see in the console. One other thing I want to release, which is somewhat related to this, is we now have the ability to like say, what was my bill or most expensive service last month. And again, these are common things that we see customers doing in the console all the time. And we want Q just to help you do it for you. That's like my whole ethos. It's just like, help me do it for me.
Yeah, I don't have to navigate around the billing console and try to create budget, these different ports.
That's
If
right.
I have a question, pops into my head, I can ask you.
That's
Yeah,
right.
it's almost like being the walking atlas, or dating myself again, the walking encyclopedia Brown, where you're having to answer everything on the spot, except this thing actually has it was purpose built to do stuff like this. It's like having your kids come up and ask why the sky is blue. Well, yeah, you might have the answer, you might not, but you're going to get there. And the more that you ask distinct questions and provide context and be specific in what you're asking, you're going to get the answer you're looking for.
That's right.
Yeah, and I think it depends on the persona. I mean, I know I'm working in different contexts. I was the cloud guy. Like, people came to me and I was fielding questions. I had CEOs asking questions about spend and how much they're paying, and then I have developers asking me questions. Hey, what research? So this would have been huge for me. I'm glad to see this. Kyle, we have just a few minutes left, so I want to make sure we get to the most, like, everything you want to get to.
Yeah, I'm hitting on the main ones here. The last one I was just going to show you is like where we're going with this is just building up more and more of these versions. You hit on it, Todd. Like, we see customers. There is definitely a group within companies who are just the console experts, and we just want to make their lives better, make it easier. And so, like, some of the areas where we're going with this, types of questions that we're looking to answer are things like, what instances, I just grabbed this alarm. Is alarm like this monitoring, for example? And I just wanted to show you how we're doing the so here you can see I asked like to list my alarms. And again, these are patterns you're going to see. And again, love to hear feedback. Reach out to us on the types of questions like this you want to find. But here you can see the navigation in the copy. When we ask it for, like, this is actually now going a step further, right? Which is like, how are these resources related to each other? And you can see this comes back, which is saying like, hey, this is actually monitoring this EC2 instance. And what we do is we give you a breakdown of that alarm. Super helpful. You can get the JSON, but then we also are starting, you'll start to see this more and more as you use Q, we're starting to link out to related resources. So again, how do we bring the console to the customer? That's the main idea. That's where we're at. We're super excited to kind of keep building out these types of relationships and answering these common console questions.
Yeah, Kyle, I think this is
But that's all I got.
Yeah, it's cool. I think this is really cool. I mean, I want folks to kind of be thinking like, hey, if you have a question about your account, try this first. Like, go here, see if it, where it gets you before you start spinning wheels somewhere else. So I think it's a huge launch. I think it's really helpful. I appreciate you coming on and showing.
Yeah, of course. Like I said, we're just getting started on sort of how Q can make the console workflow. You're seeing the work with customizations just launching. Like, we're just constantly building on from customer feedback on how Q can just help with these workflows. So thanks for having me.
Cool, Kyle. All right. Well, that's our Amazon Q Developer Console session. Man, dude, blown away. This whole show today is like, I could have used this stuff, 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah. I mean, I just went through it and refreshed Wednesday my local inventory script, because I did get the nasty gram saying, hey, what are you doing over here? You left these GPU instances running. Well, I'm still running and doing testing, helping somebody build effectively a custom Omni so you can do nice DCV amongst a bunch of other local Ubuntu development. I forgot to turn it off. So I got the ning and I didn't remember the instance or which region I was working in. So yeah, this could have saved me a ton of time.
Yeah, and you heard Kyle. It's always getting better, and every week it seems like there's some really cool new way, innovative way that we're using Amazon Q in AWS in different services. I know at New York Summit they just launched Amazon Q in SageMaker, so it is starting to penetrate the over 200 services at AWS. But yeah, okay. Well, what did you think of that segment? We want to know. And we want to know in our survey. So if you've got a couple minutes, take our survey, give us some feedback, let us know how we're doing on the show, what you want to see, what kind of, maybe you have a song request. I can maybe play a song next episode. I don't know. I'm feeling kind of spunky right now. Please take the survey. First 50 respondents will get $10 in AWS credit. So we appreciate that.
And the person with the best song request may get Todd to play it off at some point in the future show. So keep that in mind.
It'll be a very specific version of that. It'll be a metal. It'll be just kind of like chuggy metal. Adrian, you might appreciate that.
I would, man. I really appreciate the squeedlies and needlies, but I digress. I think it's about time to bring our good friend, Mr. Jeff Barr, onto the show.
I think you're right.
Adrian, Todd, how y'all doing?
Welcome to the show, Mr. Jeff. I am well, and I want to first shout out. I caught your goodies this week, and I really appreciated it. The prompt management in Bedrock, that's a pretty cool one. I know I'm going right into it. I'm drinking coffee all day today, so I'm. But yeah, thanks for posting those. Those goodies are awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so things are almost great here, but my window crashed. Not my windows, but my window crashed. Believe it or not.
Oh,
yeah. Can you believe it?
I can believe it this week for sure.
Yeah.
They're still doing some hug ops out there, but yeah,
Of course.
I think your local window would crash. That's kind of nuts.
No kidding. Well, luckily, reality is actually a whole lot nicer, so we'll just switch to that.
Nice.
Great stuff today with Amazon Q.
Oh yeah, really cool features. I
was at the AWS Heroes Summit this week, and I actually got a Q sticker.
Oh, nice.
Cool. Yeah, real live Q sticker.
Jeff, where do your stickers go these days? Do you have any real estate left on any of your computers?
I have this challenge with stickers where like they're best before you use them.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a nice empty notebook. Its highest state of being is before it's actually like defaced with words. And so to me, stickers are kind of like that, where like that potential of being stuck to something is great, but it's like once you put it on, you've like used it. This is totally weird, but this is how I think about some of these things. So.
No, I used to think about that with like band t-shirts when I was younger. I'd get these band t-shirts and I would hold on to them and I'd be like, and I wouldn't wear them. And I just hold on. They go into a box somewhere and you're like, why am I like, maybe someday somebody will care about this band. I kind of feel like stickers are the same way. They just go into a box. Maybe someday somebody will care about this sticker.
Exactly. So I've got tons of stickers. And in fact, somewhere around here, maybe not within reach, I'll get it for next time. I have the very original EC2 and S3 stickers from like 15 plus years ago.
Wow. Yeah, next time I'm in town, I got to go get a couple of those from you. I'm happy to trade some of those off. Keep Amazon peculiar stickers from the Austin office that I'll be willing to trade for.
They're a wonderful commodity.
So what you got?
Awesome stuff with Amazon Q today. Really cool stuff.
Yeah, it's kind of crushing, I guess you could say, to see how far technology has come and the things that we used to scratch out and have to manage to eke out, making it to the next set of problems that we're just solving for at scale these days.
Yeah, I mean, I still wrestle with myself about how to think about some of this, but to think about something that actually helps you to be a better dev or run AWS better or run your business better, I have to step back a bit and think, okay, I'm not being replaced, I'm being helped. Yeah. And that actually is, and it's the same thing as early in my career, like we'd write everything in assembly language. Then we got high-level languages and compilers and better debuggers and all kinds of tools and ways to like generate code. And it's just the actual progression. I have to keep reminding myself that I've seen all of this stuff in my career and that this is the progression. And like every time it's like, oh no, we're going to be replaced by the computer. It's like, no, the computer's going to help you to like do something even better.
Yeah, I've heard it referred to as co-intelligence. This is our assistant. This is somebody that's going to help us get more done. And I've been focused in the Amazon Q business world, and I've just been super impressed. But then as a developer, seeing all these new things, it's like I'm pumped to kind of see where it goes. I don't ever think it's going to replace developers, but I think it's going to certainly make their lives a lot easier. And I could have used some of that earlier.
I think so. I actually gave the opening keynote at the AWS Heroes Summit here in Seattle this week, and trying to put AI in context for the audience. Do you guys remember that video game Doom?
Yeah.
Were you there when it actually like launched, or was it always there in your life?
It was there I was there when it launched. I remember breaking in a junior high computer lab to play it.
Yep.
Okay, so when I think about Doom, there was like before we had these computers, we had video cards with some power and potential, we had our network cards, but we didn't actually realize they were capable of doing graphics that good and that fast, and with all that incredibly cool 3D.
Mhm.
And we suddenly were shown up. It's like, wow, here's this amazing game, and it does something we had no clue was even possible. And in my presentation, I actually called this the Doom moment, which was like maybe not the best choice of words, but still, it was like, okay, this sudden change to from before to after, of like just everything is different, that we've now been shown this potential. And I think we'll have a similar moment with Gen AI, where we'll see something that is so mind-blowing. We'll be like, how did that actually happen? And this is like astounding beyond reality.
Jeff, I think you just described Elon Musk's best argument for the fact that we're living in a simulation. Not to get too existential. He says if you look at the trajectory of graphics and computing in the last 50 years, project that out 100. And the speed at which that's occurring, project that out. What's going to be possible? It's going to be indifferent. We won't be able to tell the difference. And so I don't know, that when you were talking about it, that just reminded me of maybe it's all simulation.
Actually, it's funny you mentioned that. I told my wife about this, my buddies about this. I was in the yard cleaning up last weekend, and I saw an injured bird. And I'm like, okay, great. Your wing is busted. I can see it was broken. I'm going to grab a box. I can help you and go figure this out. So I go and grab a box and grab a small pail for the garden or whatever to try to coerce the guy in. Get into a corner, and I blink, and the bird disappears. I don't know if it went through a tiny little gap in the fence, but I just remember standing there kind of dumbfounded, like, okay, so what just happened? And I never saw the bird again. I never heard it again, and I never did really get that explanation. It was just kind of weird.
Weird glitch.
Do you have a security camera?
Yeah, it's outside of the view of the camera. That was the worst thing. Yeah, you can see my rather pompous posterior sitting there. You can't exactly see the bird. And I remember sitting there like, I'm gonna go run the footage back, but no, nothing. Completely disappeared.
Interesting.
That's it. Okay,
Awesome.
Jeff, I'm eager to hear what you got for us today.
Cool. All right, I've got 3 cool things. The first is one more awesome thing for Amazon Q developer, and it's called Workspace Context Awareness, which I'm sure was a wonderful internal name, but it's a lot cooler than that name would imply. So the idea is that when you're running Q developer from inside your IDE, it knows all about the content in your entire project, the code, your configuration files, and even the project structure. And it can actually answer questions about that entire project. And to trigger this, you have to mention @workspace in your query. The first time you do it, Q developer will actually create a local index of the project, and then it's going to use that local index and keep it updated from that point forward. So this is, like, I think, a pretty big deal, because it means you can do stuff like you can say @workspace, what does this code base do? And you'll get an actual summary of the entire code base. Or you can say, how does this workspace implement authentication, and get a high quality answer. Now, I was going to have a little demo, but I accidentally uninstalled my VS Code this morning, so I didn't have a chance to get it set up again. But that's why they don't trust me with code anymore. So that is the first cool thing. The next one is not more, but less. And so this has to do with Redshift Serverless. And when you set up Redshift Serverless, you also configure a minimum base capacity, and the units are called RPUs, or Redshift Processing Units. And when you run your queries, you pay in terms of what we call RPU hours, Redshift Processing Unit hours, but measured on a per second basis. And so when you put this together, you're paying only while you're running queries, but in a fairly large chunk of compute capacity. So what we've done, and we've already done this in some other regions, but this I actually didn't know about this, so it's new to me and probably to our viewers as well. So we've lowered the minimum from 32 units to 8 in some regions, and today's announcement we did it in the Europe London region, but I did a bit of research, and we've already done it in the Mumbai, Stockholm, and Northern California regions as well. So what this means is that at the low end of running Redshift Serverless, you'll pay less for your queries. So in addition to just kind of looking and saying, well, this makes it more cost effective, but it also, I think, makes it that it's going to be better for dev and for test scenarios. And also, if you want to start using Redshift and learning more about how to set up Redshift and build your data warehouse, it's going to be more economical for you to do that. So just an expansion, but of something that is I think maybe a small but a really important feature for our customers. So we'll drop a link to that in the what's new. And the last one is another extension of something that is already there. So in 2022, we launched something called snapstart for AWS Lambda. Mm-hmm. And I wrote a blog post for this at the time, as I often do. And so a bit of background on how this works. So every Lambda function goes through a 3-phase life cycle. First, it does init, then it does invoke when it's actually running the code, and then ultimately is going to be shut down. So when you hit the init phase, and this is especially true for Java, the Java runtime actually takes a little bit of time to start up. And then so you do init, and it starts the Java runtime, and it runs any static code in the function. So in some of the Java frameworks, and these are great frameworks, but they're so complex and powerful that some of them actually take like 10 seconds to start up, which is a little bit of a challenge if you want to use Lambda for things that just do something really, really quickly. So in addition to starting up the framework, the static code might like download some reference data like an ML model. Maybe it's going to set up some network connections. So this was the pre-snapstart challenge. And so in 2022, we launched this thing called AWS Lambda Snapstart. And what this does, I think it's pretty clever. It pre-runs the init phase before you actually need to run the code. And then it saves an immutable encrypted snapshot of both the memory and the disk state. And it keeps those in a way that is cached for reuse. So it's running part of the code ahead of time. And then at the point when you actually want to invoke the function, it's already done that expensive init part. And so it can just pull that part into memory. And so it's effectively, it's doing the init way ahead of time and once. And then if you invoke that same function a bunch of times, you're not gonna have to pay that hit in either clock time or actually Lambda function running time. So that's already been there for Java, for Lambda, for the x86 architecture. But what we actually launched with that gigantic preamble is we launched this for the ARM64 architecture, which is available, and it's available in all the regions where snapstart is available. You can click it on for both new and existing functions. And the awesome thing is when you do this, if your Lambda code will run on the ARM architecture, and most of it will, except if you have some particular dependencies on stuff that just doesn't run on ARM, like maybe some third-party libraries. You do this, and you can get up to 34% better price performance than running on x86. I think that's pretty awesome, and we've got a link to what's new for that. Those are my 3 cool items for today.
Yeah, very cool. I would love to. I'm wondering if that Lambda speed up would help debugging Lambda. One of the challenges I've always had was just how long it takes to get to CloudWatch before I can debug what's going on in my Lambda. And it seems like maybe if it's Lambda's executing faster, that I could get to that faster. It'd be a huge help for me.
I would think so. Yeah. Between you and me and our audience, I still am not fully clear on the best ways to debug Lambda code. So
just write better code. Have Amazon Q write it.
Yeah. True, but you still, even if something writes your code, I'm always going to go through that code line by line and make sure I understand it. And at that point, Q is going to be teaching me something, right? Because it's probably that I should at least know the services I'm going to use and have something of an idea of what they're going to do. And if I'm going to start off with something from Q, I'm going to go through it and look at it. Yeah. At the very least, to check and make sure it is heading in the right direction, but also because it's like, hey, this expert just told me how to do something. It's to my advantage to look at it and learn from it.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, well, thanks for those updates, Jeff. I think it is time to bring on our final guest, the great Nick. That's our producer. He's going to come back on. Nick, welcome to the show. Hey, buddy.
Todd, this is why you're my favorite host, with introductions like that, not biased at all.
Yeah,
but
I felt bad calling you a noob in our promo, so I gotta like make up for that.
Yeah, keep me honest, keep me balanced. Can't let my ego get too big. But guys, we've got some really cool announcements coming up. I know we're getting to the end of the show here, so I got to be quick. So I got 3 main things. First and foremost, got to say it again. Take the survey. I do open a nice bottle of Merlot on Friday nights and sit by a fire and read survey responses. That's how I spend my Friday nights. So don't leave me disappointed. Go ahead, take our survey, make me laugh, make me cry. I want to feel the full Nicholas Sparks level of emotions, whole range. So let me know what you guys
want
think
from me.
So the worst image I have is like Nick in a smoking jacket, some slippers, and he's like
100%,
the whole 9 yards.
Yeah, it's, forget the classics in English literature. I read everybody's survey responses.
Wait, Adrian, did you mean the whole Vine yards?
I'm sorry?
The whole Vine yards.
No, I didn't.
That was a Merlot joke.
Oh, I missed it. Oh.
I don't know, Jeff. Adrian's not very good with puns. If I know anything about him, so he's not great with puns.
Yeah, well, the only thing only explanation I could think of, Nick, Jeff, I was very Bordeaux out of my mind. Sorry.
Okay.
Oh, man.
All right. But our other 2 responses. So everybody hopefully knows that we air every Friday at 12 p.m. Pacific time. It's a weekly show. We go through these sorts of cloud computing demos every week. But we're making an exception next week. Instead of airing on Friday, next Friday, the 26th, we are going to do our show on Monday, the 29th, still at 12 p.m. Pacific time. But if you log in next Friday, you don't see us, that's why. We'll be moving next week's show, one time only, to Monday the 29th. I'm sorry to disappoint all of our diehard fans. We're just trying to build some more suspense over the weekend.
Do we still get paid?
The 29th. What?
Do we still get paid?
No. Yeah. Jeff, you aren't supposed to tell Todd and Adrian they get paid. Come on, man.
I have expectations and needs.
Hanging out with you guys is payment enough for me.
See, again, this is why Todd's our favorite host, everybody. And then, perhaps most excitingly, we wanted to do a quick plug. Guys, do you realize that AI Infrastructure Day is coming up in less than 2 weeks? On July 31st. Tune into AI Infrastructure Day right here on the AWS On Air Twitch channels. We're going to be highlighting how AWS's comprehensive, secure, and purpose-built AI infrastructure helps you build and train foundation models, help you reshape your business with generative AI. It's a mouthful. I may or may not have had to look at my notes to make sure I got all those words correct. But point is, it'll be super cool. We'll drop a link to register in the chat here. Yep, there we go. Our other producer, Debbie, just dropped it in there. So register for AI Infrastructure Day. And with that, guys, we have 30 seconds to end the show. So I'm going to get off screen and let the pros take it from here. I'll see you guys on the 29th.
Well
done. See you later.
Thanks, Jeff. Thanks, Nick.
Anytime. I got to run. Got to go do a video shoot. But great to see you as always. And have a great weekend, everybody.
Yeah. Have a great weekend, Jeff. Good luck.
Thank you.
Adrian, what a show, man. That's one of the longest shows, but I had fun the whole time. It flew by for me. What about you?
Yeah, the real prize is the friends that we made along the way. This was a fun one. A lot of mixed emotions. We talked about, hey, it would be nice if we had that. But it's cool. We kind of skinned our knees so we can get to this point and make it so that it sucks less for the next group, the next generation of folks that are coming up. So I encourage folks to go out and build and leverage that to its full extent.
The circle of life is complete.
Huh?
Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next week.
We'll
Monday,
see you.
the following week, 2 weeks. We'll see you Monday, the 29th.
Eventually.
Eventually, I'll see you again.